Alright, boys, welcome back. We're finally back. UFC 324, boys. It's finally upon us. It's been a long 6 weeks. I'm back. My UFC 324 prediction video. Pretty good card. Good start to the Paramount era. But I'm here to let you boys know what I think about these fights and my predictions. Let's get right into it, boys. First fight on the card, we got Adam Fugitt versus Ty Miller. Now, Adam Fugitt got slept by Dulatov his last fight. I feel like they're always putting him up against prospects off the Contender Series or something. But that's Ty Miller. I saw him on the Contender Series. He's like a pretty good striker. He went 3 rounds, but he controlled it. He's very technical. But I think in this one, Ty Miller did his debut. He's going to get that first round knockout, boys. Just like that. Fugitt has some good wrestling, but Ty Miller's striking, I feel like pretty good to finish Adam Fugitt. Next fight on the card, boys, we got Ricky Turcios versus Cameron Smotherman. Now, Turcios lost his last fight. I feel like he loses a bunch, not going to lie. He's pretty bad. But he lost to Sopaj. He kept up a good pace in that fight. Pretty good grappler. Good scrambles, but pretty bad striker. Has no power whatsoever. But Smotherman, he's pretty good, but he's like 1-3 in the UFC or 1-2. Lost his last fight to Ricky Simon. I'm pretty sure he took that on short notice. I still think Cameron Smotherman, he's probably a better fighter all around. Turcios has the grappling, but I think Smotherman could even that out. He has pretty good striking. So I got Smotherman by decision, boys. Next fight on the card, we got the big boys. We got the heavyweights. We got Josh Hokit versus Denzel Freeman. Now, Hokit, obviously, he won his last fight by first round knockout. He's looking pretty good, pretty athletic to be a heavyweight. Now, Denzel Freeman, last fight, I'm pretty sure people regard it as like one of the worst fights in UFC history, which isn't good. It was pretty boring. I don't remember it personally, but that's what I remember about it. I don't know much about Denzel Freeman. I watched some videos of him. He's decent. I think Hokit's going to starch him in round 1 knockout. That's my prediction. I just think Hokit's going to be a problem for these heavyweights. You know, he's like 235, but he's pretty fast for heavyweight, and, you know, most heavyweights can't handle that. So, got Hokit, round 1 knockout, boys. Now, the next fight on the card, boys, we got Michael Johnson versus Alexander Hernandez. Now, obviously, they're both making a little career resurgence, Michael Johnson and Hernandez. Johnson, obviously, last time out, beat Zell Huber as a big underdog. I think he was like plus 800 to lose that one. Went out there, you know, put on his boxing versus the young prospect, and won that. And, you know, Hernandez has been doing pretty good himself. He knocked out Chase Hooper, and then he knocked out Diego Ferreira. So they're both doing pretty good at this stage. I still think Hernandez has a lot to prove. He was always touted as like a big prospect, but never really panned out. But now, you know, I think 3-4 fight win streak. He's probably coming into his own now. Johnson having a late career resurgence as well. I think he's on a 3-fight win streak with like 2 knockouts. But I think Hernandez has been facing the better opponents. You know, Johnson, obviously Zell Huber is pretty good, but hasn't really beat anyone that good. Good prospect still, but I think Hernandez is gonna win this one, boys. I think he's gonna get a second round TKO versus Michael Johnson. And yeah, I think he could rock him, you know, grapple him, and just finish him with that TKO. Obviously, Johnson's pretty fast. You know, he has good counters, but I think Hernandez can handle that and get that round 2 finish, boys. Now, next fight on the card. Last fight of the early prelims, too. We got Alex Perez versus Charles Johnson. Alex Perez lost his last fight versus Asu Amabayev, but he was doing pretty good the first 2 rounds. He was controlling him in the grappling till he got caught in that guillotine in round 3. But he's a pretty good wrestler. He had Amabayev on the ground first 2 rounds. Charles Johnson, his last fight, he knocked out Loner Kavanaugh. Prospect killer Charles Johnson knocked out Van, knocked out Kavanaugh, but now he's facing a vet and Alex Perez. I think it's like this is really striker versus grappler here. Obviously, Perez is a pretty good striker. He has decent power for flyweight, but I think Johnson is the better striker. He's pretty bad at stopping takedowns, but I still think I think he could stop Alex Perez's takedowns. I've been going back and forth with this fight. I thought Perez could dominate in the grappling, but I do think Charles Johnson is good enough to stop his takedowns and just control the fight on the feet. So that's why I got Charles Johnson by decision, boys. Next fight, first fight of the prelims, boys. We got Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukauskas. Nikita Krylov, last 2 fights, got brutally knocked out by Reyes and by Guzkov. And Modestas Bukauskas has been looking pretty good as of late. He had a little stinker with Gutelaba, but he beat Paul Craig. He's gotten a few finishes. Krylov looking pretty slow recently. I don't know. He's on a decline kind of. He's still like pretty young. I think he's 32 or 33. But Bukauskas, I think he has that momentum. Krylov, back-to-back knockout losses, never good. I just think Bukauskas is going to knock him out in round 1, unfortunately. He has the speed, the power. Krylov obviously has grappling and power as well, but I just think Bukauskas has all the momentum right now, so I think he's going to go out there and just fry Krylov in round 1. And yeah, boys. Next fight on the prelims, boys. We got that boy, Ateba Gautier versus Andrey Pulyaev. Not going to lie, boys, I have no idea who Andrey Pulyaev is. We do know who Ateba Gautier is, 3 fights last year, 3 first-round knockouts, all in like the first 1 to 2 minutes. 23 years old, Cameroon, mini Ngannou, might I say. But looking like a demon at middleweight. Looking like a good prospect. Could go really far in the division. But I do think he is going to get that first-round knockout. And that's my first lock of the card, boys. Ateba Gautier. First-round knockout. I'll give it like a minute before it happens. I think we're all waiting for that one. He's the lock of the card, I'm pretty sure. But yeah. Now, next fight, boys. We got Umar Nurmagomedov versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Umar, I'm pretty sure, is the biggest favorite on this card. I think that's very disrespectful to Figgy, considering he's done pretty good at bantamweight. He's lost. He lost to Sandhagen and Jan. He just beat Montel Jackson. Obviously, Umar just beat Mario Batista. This one I don't think is really tough, but Figgy's a vet. He could put up a good fight. I do got Umar by decision, and that's my other lock. I know I called it disrespectful to Figgy for him to be a favorite, but I do think Umar wins this one by decision. I think he could control the pace and the striking, could control the grappling. Just think he's a better all-around fighter. Figgy's getting up there in age, boys. Sad to say, but might be on his way out. But Umar, I think him by decision, 30-27. Now, the start of the main card, boys. We got Arnold Allen versus Gene Silva. Now, this is a banger, boys. Obviously, Arnold Allen hasn't fought in a while. I think his last fight was versus Giga Chikadze, where he won. And obviously, Gene Silva lost his last fight to Diego Lopez, got knocked out. This is a good one, boys. This is going to be fight of the night, I'm pretty sure. Obviously, Arnold Allen has that striking. He has that cardio. He could keep it up. We saw that versus Holloway. He always knows how to fight his opponents, should I say. He does pretty good versus opponents. Gave Movsar the hardest fight of his career, I'd say. Gene Silva, obviously, did pretty good versus Diego Lopez in round 2, the striking. Got too aggressive and obviously got caught with the spinning elbow, but he got knocked out. This is a tough one. Well, not tough one, but this is a good one. Like, pretty good fight. Obviously the long layoff might give Arnold Allen some problems at first. Gene Silva obviously just got knocked out. I think we're gonna see a more patient Gene Silva in this one, a more calm, picking his shots type of Gene Silva. The one we saw versus Kevin Vallejos on the Contender Series, I think we'll see that version of Gene Silva. He looks very locked in. And I think he'll be the first man to finish Arnold Allen. I think he's going to TKO him in round 2. That's my prediction. Gene Silva, TKO in round 2. I think he'll just be able to overwhelm Allen. I think he might rock him. He could drop him. I don't think he'll knock him out cold, but I think it'll be like a cumulative type of TKO, like Arnold Allen did to Dan Hooker. Yeah, that's how I think that fight will go. Now, next fight on the main card, boys. We got Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. Obviously, Silva took this fight. It's not that short of notice. It was supposed to be Grasso Namajunas, but Silva took this fight. I feel like she had the title shot secured after that win versus Grasso, but she wanted to get back in there, stay active. Obviously, Namajunas is up a weight class now. I forget her last fight. I think was versus Miranda Maverick or something. And Silva, obviously, last fight was Grasso. Silva's striking, I think, is probably the best behind Valentina's in this division, even though Valentina's more of a grappler nowadays. But I think Silva's the best striker in the division. Obviously, Namajunas, still pretty good. She's a good all-around fighter, grappling, striking. But I do think Silva will be able to control Namajunas. I don't think she'll be taking Namajunas will be able to take Silva down. So I think it'll just be more of a Grasso Silva type of thing where Silva's just picking her apart with the leg kicks, countering every chance she gets. So I got Natalia Silva, unanimous decision. Now, the next fight on the card, boys. We got the big boys. We got Waldo Cortes-Acosta versus Derrick Lewis. This is a good heavyweight scrap, boys. Obviously, Waldo had 4 fights last year. Lost to Pavlovich, but not a bad loss. Pavlovich is like top 3 locked at heavyweight. Derrick Lewis, obviously, been knocking people out left and right, as he always does. This is a hard one, boys, because it's heavyweight. I feel like Lewis now is the type of guy where he's going to go out there in round 1 in the first, 30 seconds to a minute and just come at you, try to knock you out. I think Cortes-Acosta will be able to weather the storm. Lewis will probably gas out after that first flurry he's gonna throw in round 1. I think Costa wins this by decision. I know heavyweight decision is pretty hard to say because them boys are big, like 265 pounds each. But I think Cortes-Acosta is probably gonna use his grappling in this one. Keep his range, and then whenever Lewis comes close, he'll take him down. But yeah, that's my pick for this one. Cortes-Acosta by decision. I wouldn't be surprised if Derrick Lewis knocks him out, though. I'll never be surprised by that. Now, the co-main event, boys. We got that boy Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. Obviously, O'Malley lost his last 2 fights to Merab Dvalishvili, and Song Yadong beat Henry Cejudo. This is a pretty good fight, good striking match. I think Song Yadong obviously has a lot of power, so does O'Malley. Both could knock each other out. Sean O'Malley's obviously the lanky striker, pretty good defensive striking as well. I do have Sean O'Malley by unanimous decision. That's my 3rd lock of the card, boys. Just Song Yadong, he looked like he was getting gassed versus Cejudo before that fight was stopped, and he was getting picked apart against the fence. That's never good, getting pieced up by Henry Cejudo. I think Sean O'Malley will be able to pick him apart from range. Just do whatever you want with him, honestly. I think O'Malley behind Gautier is the lock of the card. Just because of Song Yadong gets hit a lot. O'Malley's like one of the most accurate strikers. And I just think he'll be able to keep his range, pick him apart, and knock not get caught by Yadong. He might get hit a few times, but I don't think he'll. Sean O'Malley's chin is very underrated. I think he'll be able to take Yadong's hardest shots, and I think O'Malley will just be able to cruise to a 30-27, just picking apart Yadong masterclass and getting that title shot, getting back in that title shot picture, boys. Now, the main event of the evening, boys. We got Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. This is pretty good. Obviously, it's for the interim lightweight belt. I don't know if I agree with that. They're basically, I personally feel like they're fighting to see who's the 5th best lightweight in the world in this one. Obviously, we got Ilya, Armand, Max, and Charles. And then whoever wins this, I think, will be the 5th best lightweight. But it's a pretty good fight. Obviously, Gaethje just beat Fiziev. Paddy just beat Michael Chandler. Gaethje's obviously getting up there in age, but he still showed. I thought he looked really good in that Fiziev fight, even though he got taken down a few times, but it wasn't really a takedown. It was more like Fiziev catching his kicks and then pushing him down. People keep bringing up that he got taken down by Fiziev, but they weren't really takedowns. It's not like Fiziev was shooting. It was more like him getting pushed down and pushed over, basically, and Fiziev just jumping on top. But obviously, Paddy in his last fight looked pretty good versus Chandler. Finished him by TKO in round 3. Paddy obviously was getting caught a few times in that fight. He always keeps his chin very high. But I think Gaethje can find that shot versus Paddy. If Gaethje comes out in this one looking like he did versus Khabib with the low guard, like that. You guys know what I'm talking about. But he keeps his stance down to defend the takedowns and then just like picking apart Paddy's legs. I could see him winning this one, potentially like making Paddy gas later in the rounds. Gaethje, good striker, good vet. I see this fight reminds me of a lot like Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint-Denis. Saint-Denis was riding all the high in that one, and he was even the underdog he was the favorite versus Poirier. But I do not think this is like that fight. I do think that Paddy is the better fighter than Saint-Denis. Obviously, he gets caught a lot. He gets clipped a lot, but I think he's really becoming just better and better after every fight. That Chandler fight proved a lot. Weathered the storm and pretty good striking. Rocked Chandler, took him down, TKO'd him. So my pick for Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje, boys, is, hold on just a second. See this, boys? I'm a scouser. I don't get knocked out. That's my pick, boys. I got Paddy Pimblett, round 2 submission. He's going to go out there. I think in the first round, he's going to he's not going to get caught. I don't feel like Paddy Pimblett, he has a great chin. He's not going to get caught by Gaethje. He's not going to get dropped. He's going to eat Gaethje's hardest shots. He might take a few leg kicks, might limp a little, but he's going to come out, just keep coming at Gaethje. I can see him taking him down in round 1, but round 2 I think is where he gets it done. He's going to submit Justin Gaethje in round 2. Gaethje's pretty bad defensive grappler, not that good on the ground. But, yeah, those are my predictions for UFC 324, boys. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll give my reactions to this card after. And it's going to be a pretty packed week next week. We got 325, Diego Lopez versus Volk 2. Wait for my prediction video for that one, boys. Hope you boys enjoyed this video. Let's enjoy. We're finally back to UFC, so enjoy the card, boys. Hope you've had a good start to the new year. Yeah, peace.